Les Paul, I will give you one more chance. Tell me the secret to slash tone.
I'll never tell you.
Mwahaha! Then you leave me no choice. Baritone him! Hey, I sound pretty good now. Welcome to the dark side.
Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a 2004 Gibson Les Paul Studio, but wait, there's something wrong with this. What's going on with this neck? This is the very first Baritone Les Paul, and it is a massive 28-inch scale. To put that into perspective, your normal Les Paul, the bridge would be right here, 3/4 of the way almost to the bridge pickup. So that is quite the extended range. Why on earth do you need that? It's a Les Paul. Well, it's to play super drop tunings. I mean, you can gent with this guitar. Yes, you can do it. It's possible. But these baritone guitars are meant for drop tunings, such as B to B or C sharp to C sharp or whatever tuning you're feeling like using. These were kind of an experimental guitar for Gibson. They offered them in black, blue mist, pewter metallic, and sunrise orange. Similar to the Les Paul Platinum Studios, they used the same brushed aluminum hardware and pickups. Now you can see the bridge and tailpiece and all that good stuff is original on this one, but somebody swapped out the original 490R 498T pickup set for Seymour Duncan active blackouts. But let's talk for a second. What was Gibson thinking? 490R, 498T originally in here? Those are like rock pickups. Whereas usually when you think super low tunings, you're like into heavy metal territory. I mean, it's no wonder somebody ripped those out to put active electronics in here. I think most people will want those bitey or ceramic pickups for doing what they do with these instruments. But you can do more than just doom metal with these things. They really are an invaluable tool to have around because, let's face it, these guitars, they just sound different and they can inspire you to play differently. This thing sounds huge. It is massive. It's like playing a bass, but yet it's all comfortable. Because with all these drop tunings, all your patterns are the same as a standard guitar. It's just tuned down, but everything feels normal. I highly suggest trying one of these out. But let me tell you, these things are impossible to find. You have to set up a search on eBay and Reverb, and maybe 1 or 2 show up per year. And you have to be fast when they get listed. Their rarity has definitely brought their prices up. But in order to increase your chances of finding one of these, there were actually a few different baritone models made. This was the first one, 2004. But at the same time, Epiphone also made one. It was a 27 3/4 inch scale, so it's not quite as long as this one. But you can usually pick those up used between like $400 to $600. However, the next time that I'm aware of that Gibson attempted to do the baritone again was with the Buckethead models. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Bucketheads. You're gonna see a nice pair of those showing up on my channel again here very shortly. But what's interesting about those, and what makes them completely different from this one, is they have a 27-inch scale. So it's 1 inch shorter, so it's a little bit more manageable. It doesn't feel like crazy long. But also, in order to get rid of this weird long neck look, Buckethead had them make the guitars larger. It's a common misconception that these original studios were larger. They're not. They measure the same 9 inches across here and 13 inches across this way. Whereas the Buckethead, I believe it's 10 and 14, if I remember correctly. Also, the Bucketheads are chambered, so they're a little bit more manageable. They usually run around 9 pounds. This original run, I believe it's 9-hole weight relief. This is kind of when I wish I would have an x-ray because you can't ever find that information anywhere. But it weighs about 9.5 pounds, but it feels heavier than that. When the Buckethead Studios were released, around the same time Gibson also reintroduced a regular studio, in case somebody didn't want a Buckethead themed baritone guitar. That puts us in 2011 till 2012. Now it kind of looks like a standard, but you have the gold Gibson logo. It's a beautiful honeyburst looking finish, but they left the maple cap exposed along the edges to look like binding. They also have a baked maple fretboard with the 28-inch scale, and similar to the Buckethead ones, unlike this original run, they had the hot ceramic pickups 496R 500T. Now, there's other baritone guitar offerings from other companies, so if you don't have to have Gibson on the headstock, or you're not brand loyal, there's definitely cheaper ways to get baritone guitars, but there's just something special about having such an awesome sounding Les Paul that is also equally as rare. But I am so thankful to have had this experience to document this baritone guitar. Now that we know a little bit more about this Les Paul baritone, let's go ahead and hear how this monster sounds. Now that we know how boisterous this instrument is, let's go ahead and review its condition. The nice thing about this original 2004 run of Baritone Studios is they have a mother of pearl Gibson logo, and that is what I always look for in a guitar that I plan on keeping. Any Gibson that doesn't have that, to me, it just feels lower end, which usually it is. And it's the only Baritone Les Paul that I'm aware of that comes stock with it. But the face of the headstock, it's got some scratches on the top. You can kind of see some bubbling lacquer, especially around these edges. You've kind of got that all over this instrument. I don't think it was necessarily super well taken care of. Sometimes that can be caused by dinging it up against something. This is a mahogany neck. Truss rod works perfectly fine. Doesn't even look like it's been adjusted very much. The nut has been replaced. It is not glued down, so if you take the strings off, it does move. You could glue it down, but I mean, there's so much string pressure on this. This is a heavy gauge of strings. The frets on this one, excellent shape. I did not really notice any fret wear, and it is an ebony fretboard, and that's just beautiful. There is no binding on it. So if you're like me, you like the look of binding, but not necessarily the playability of it, hey, you don't have to worry about that on this example. Now the face of the guitar, it's just littered with scratches, nicks, and dings. But that's just kind of the story with black guitars in general. Your neck pickup plastic knob, you can see it kind of has a crack right there, which is unfortunate. If you're looking for an original set of pickups in here, again, just buy one of those Les Paul Platinums, just part it out, and then you'll have those pickups. You can put a new knob on it. You'll be good to go, and it'll just be cheaper than buying the original pickups separately once a scalper's selling them. And that brings me to another point. Due to this heavy gauge of strings, the bridge is actually collapsing a little bit. I didn't notice any negative effects to the playability, but I'm sure if you put a properly radius bridge back on here, it would magically play a little bit better. But I do want to make sure that is fully disclosed. And the brushed aluminum hardware, it's kind of cool. So on the back of the plastics, it's a mirror. So it's almost like the back sprayed on stuff that creates a mirror is essentially what this looks and feels like. It really is a cool platinum looking effect. The pickups are Seymour Duncan blackouts. Again, they're active, which means you need two 9-volt batteries to power them in the back here. And all the electronics have been replaced with 25K pots. So if you're looking to restore this thing, you're gonna have to redo the wiring as well. Back of the headstock looks like 01, maybe 954554, so 2004 model, made in USA. No breaks, cracks, or repairs on this one, just the lacquer bubbling that we were talking about on the sides. And there's a lot of forum posts that call these 50s necks, and I think that's what Gibson classified them as, but I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, they're not super thin. It's not a shredder neck, but I wouldn't call it a super chunky neck either. It's kind of like a rounded C, but it's a little bit slimmer. So it's enough to grab onto if you need to do some heavy chugging. It's not just simply meant for shredding. Now along the neck here, there is a ding. Now this looks absolutely terrible in photos, but when you look at it from an angle, you can see it's just a very slight impression. And whilst you're playing, it's at the part where like the beef of your hand would be. So even if you were to accidentally rub up against that spot with your hand, you're not gonna tell it. And that's a huge thing for players. A lot of people will not buy guitars that have dings on the neck. So thankfully, that one, you can't really feel it. I mean, unless you're going, yep, I feel it. And it's pretty much out of the way. Now the next thing to go over here is there is considerable lacquer shrinking going on along the neck. Sometimes that can happen when the guitar was not like in a properly humidified area. It was dry, it causes the neck to shrink or the fretboard to shrink. And what that does is it starts to make the fretboard lacquer chip along the edges, and you can see that right there. And it is a little bit sharp. Now, I took some steel wool. I kind of filed it down a little bit. That way, you're in no harm's way here. I mean, look, I'm not getting cut here, but I do want you to be aware of this situation that's going on. So, no breaks, cracks, or repairs, but you've got some chipping and bubbling to the lacquer. You might have to finish scraping that off one day, as a worst case scenario. Back of the instrument, hey, it looks great, right? Get it in the light, you've got some light buckle worming. I feel like I might have downplayed the condition of this guitar in my listing. It's been used. It's got some wear. It's got changed parts. It's got nicks and dings. But, for what it is a very good guitar. You have Schaller strap locks on here with the mahogany body. And it does still have a maple top. If you get it in the light just right, you can see it. And also, if you get it in the light just right, you can kind of see some vertical finish checking stemming from the knobs. What that's usually caused by is either the guitar was dropped in its case and that causes some of that, or if it gets dinged up against something really quickly. Now, under Blacklight, you can see everything is glowing beautifully on this example. We don't really have anything to go over that we haven't already talked about under normal lighting situations. Which, hey, that's not too bad of a thing to have on a well-played and some people might say this one was abused a bit, but hey, it was somebody's workhorse. Unfortunately, this guitar does not have its original case. Good luck finding a case that'll ever fit it outside of a custom order because the 28-inch scale makes it so it won't fit in a regular Les Paul case. This is a beat-up acoustic guitar case. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th back clasp. This one locks if you have a key. So what I've done is added a bunch of bubble wrap, and that kind of firms up the fit. So it does work. It'll protect it in shipping. You can carry it around gig to gig with this thing. I mean, it's not ideal, but hey, it's better than a poorly fitting gig bag. The pull tab ribbon is kind of broken. It is in here though, if you can find a way to attach it. And I have removed the 9-volt batteries. They will be wrapped up in bubble wrap. You will have to reinstall those. And if you ever send a guitar with 9 volts in it, it's important to remove them because they are very prone to exploding with all the changes in temperature that an instrument will go through with the shipping process. I can't tell you how many times guitars get destroyed by people not doing that step. So yes, it's kind of a pain in the butt not to be able to plug and play when it gets to you, but it's way worth it. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this Gibson Les Paul Baritone, feel free to check out that link in the description that will take you to the Reverb for Sale ad. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.